You are not losing to the world. You are losing to the enemy within the voice that whispers you're not good enough, that you'll never change, that you should quit. That voice isn't a stranger. It's you, and until you learn to silence that voice, you'll keep stumbling in the same places, making the same mistakes, and living the same life you promised yourself you'd grow out of. Winning in life doesn't start with beating others. It starts with beating the version of you that keeps pulling you back. And that version of you doesn't always show up as a monster. It shows up as comfort, procrastination, fear, hesitation, and convenience. It tells you to wait. It tells you to relax. It tells you to dream, but never dares you to act. It dresses up your weakness in the disguise of self-care, your doubts in the mask of logic, your laziness in the clothing of rest, and day after day, that version wins quietly, subtly, invisibly until your life becomes a reflection of everything you ran away from, instead of everything you were meant to be. Most people never face this truth. They look outside for enemies, for reasons, for blame. They say life is unfair, people are cruel, luck isn't on their side. But the greatest prison is self-inflicted. No one chained your mind but you. No one stopped your growth but the version of you that chose not to fight. The real war isn't between you and the world. It's between who you are and who you could be. It's between comfort and courage, between settling and striving, between repeating and rising. And the tragedy is, if you don't fight, you don't even realize you've lost. You wake up in a life that looks fine on the outside, but feels empty inside. You convince yourself this is just how life is. But deep down, you know it could be more. You could be more. It starts with awareness. It starts with the moment you look in the mirror and stop seeing a victim. It's the moment you stop telling yourself you'll start tomorrow. The moment you stop romanticizing motivation and start respecting discipline. It's when you realize that no one is coming to save you, that growth is painful, lonely, and unglamorous but necessary. That's the first battle, facing the truth, not the filtered truth, the raw truth that you've been sabotaging your own progress, that your habits have betrayed your dreams, that your words don't match your actions, that your potential has been waiting on your permission, and you've kept it on hold. You've kept greatness waiting because fear feels safer than failure. You've avoided growth because staying small meant fewer risks, fewer expectations, fewer chances of falling. But the truth is, you're already falling. Every day you don't try, you fall a little more. Every day you repeat the same routine with no intention of changing. You lose a little more of your fire. Every day you listen to the voice that tells you to play it safe. You drift further from the life that could have been yours. You can't win if you don't even step into the ring. And most people don't. They live half lives with full regrets. They numb their frustration with distractions. They scroll instead of confront. They complain instead of commit. But not you, not anymore. You're here because something in you is waking up. Something in you is getting tired of your own stories. Tired of settling. Tired of shrinking. Tired of living below your standards. That fire in you, it's not dead. It's just buried under layers of excuses and years of inaction. But it can still burn. You can still rise. You can still become everything you were created to be. But only if you win against yourself. That means choosing discipline over emotion. It means acting when you don't feel like it. Showing up when it's inconvenient. Speaking truth to yourself when lies feel easier. It means looking at your life and asking, what am I doing to hold myself back? And then answering with brutal honesty. Because you can't change what you won't confront. You can't grow through denial. You can't transform with excuses. This is your war, and it's not going to end in a day. But it can begin today, right here, right now, with one decision: to stop losing, to stop giving in, to stop letting the weaker version of you run the show. You see, that version of you isn't bad, it's just scared. It's the part of you that remembers every failure, every rejection, every time you tried and didn't make it. It wants to protect you. But in protecting you, it's also limiting you. It wants you to survive. But you weren't born just to survive. You were born to lead, to grow, to impact, to evolve. And evolution requires letting go of your old self every day. It's not a one-time transformation. It's a continuous death and rebirth. It's about waking up every morning and asking, who do I need to become today to get closer to the life I want? and then becoming that person regardless of how hard it is. Winning against yourself means breaking patterns. It means recognizing when your behavior is out of alignment with your goals. It means noticing when you're choosing short-term comfort over long-term fulfillment. It means calling yourself out not to shame, but to sharpen. Growth doesn't come from being gentle with your flaws. It comes from being honest about them. It comes from saying, I can do better, I will do better, and then doing it without applause, without permission, without waiting for the perfect moment. The perfect moment is now, because now is all you ever really have. Every day you delay is a day you're choosing defeat. Every day you put off your growth is a day the old version of you gets stronger. And make no mistake, that version will always fight for control. It will argue for your limitations. It will feed your fears. It will twist your logic. It will whisper justifications. But you must respond with truth, with action, with discipline. You must remind yourself of who you're becoming and why it matters. Because this isn't just about achievement, it's about integrity. It's about becoming someone you respect, someone you trust, someone you don't have to lie to in the mirror. You can't put a price on that. You can't measure that with numbers or metrics, but you feel it. When you're aligned with your highest self, you feel it. There's a peace that comes from knowing you're no longer hiding, no longer settling, no longer letting fear win. That peace is worth everything, and it only comes when you stop losing to yourself. So how do you start? You start small. You make a promise to yourself and you keep it. One habit, one change, one shift. You wake up earlier. You move your body. You silence the negative thoughts. You read. You write. You breathe. You build. You fall. You get up. You keep going. And with every step, you silence the voice that once ruled your life. You tell it, not today, not anymore. I'm done losing to you. I'm done living small. I'm done playing safe. This is my time, my season, my moment, and I will not waste it listening to fear. You weren't created for mediocrity. You weren't born to be average. There is something inside you that was meant to lead, to shine, to shake the world. But you'll never access that power if you're still controlled by doubt, if you're still paralyzed by your past, if you're still arguing for your limitations. The only way to find out who you could become is to start becoming. And that requires courage, not the kind that shows off, the kind that shows up every day, quietly, consistently, relentlessly. This is the beginning of your revolution, not against the world, but against the old you, the version that gave up too soon, the version that broke promises, the version that said maybe later and never meant it. That version served a purpose. It kept you safe. But now it's time to outgrow it, to let it go, to release it with gratitude and move forward with strength. Because what's coming is bigger than what's been, but only if you're willing to evolve. You don't need another book, another quote, another push. You need to decide. Decide that you're done losing to yourself. Decide that enough is enough. Decide that your future matters more than your comfort. Because the truth is, nothing changes until you do, and you'll never win in the outer world until you first win in the inner one. That's where all success begins. That's where greatness is born. In the battle no one sees, but everyone eventually feels. So fight, not with fists, but with focus. Not with rage, but with resolve. Not with noise, but with consistency. Fight for your potential. Fight for your future. Fight for the version of you that's been waiting to rise. And don't stop until you win, not once, but daily, over and over, until it becomes who you are. Until the old voice fades, until your actions speak louder than your fears, until your life reflects your highest self, until you look in the mirror and no longer see a war, but a warrior, until you win against yourself, and then win again. Tomorrow, we're trained to compete with others from the very beginning. In school, we're ranked. In sports, we keep score. In life, we measure success by what others have: cars, houses, jobs, beauty, followers, fame. We look left and right, constantly, trying to gauge how we're doing. But the truth that most people never learn is that the real competition is never with the world. It's always been with the person you were yesterday. And if you don't understand that, you'll waste your whole life chasing shadows, comparing your behind the scenes to someone else's highlight reel, and wondering why nothing ever feels like enough. You are not behind anyone. You are behind the best version of yourself you keep ignoring. That person, the one who's more disciplined, more focused, more courageous, more resilient, that person lives inside you. But they're buried under layers of habits, thoughts, and choices that you've tolerated for too long. And if you don't begin to challenge that version of yourself, you'll never rise. Because what's stopping you is not a lack of opportunity or talent or support. What's stopping you is your unwillingness to confront your comfort. Comfort is dangerous because it doesn't look like a threat. It feels warm, familiar, safe, but it kills potential silently. It tells you that what you've done is enough, that you're doing fine, that you don't need to change today. It's the most seductive lie you'll ever hear, because comfort convinces you that effort is optional, that growth can wait, that greatness is something you stumble into instead of something you fight for. But if you're going to win this war within, you have to call yourself out. You have to stop accepting average behavior from yourself. You have to recognize that the version of you who avoids hard conversations, who procrastinates, who breaks promises to themselves, that version has no business leading your life. That version must be defeated day by day, action by action, until they no longer have a voice. And that takes brutal honesty, because most people aren't honest with themselves. They say they're working hard, but they're scrolling more than they're building. They say they want to grow, but they repeat the same patterns with no intention to change. They say they're trying, but they haven't pushed themselves past their limits in weeks, maybe months. Trying is not enough. Wishing is not enough. You must execute. You must follow through. You must choose to act even when every part of you wants to stay the same. And that's where discipline comes in. Discipline is not about being perfect. It's about showing up. It's about choosing your future over your feelings. It's about keeping promises to yourself, especially when no one else is watching. Because self-respect is built in private. It's built in the moment when you could quit, but you don't. When you could cheat, but you don't. When you could coast, but instead, you dig deeper. You see, winning against yourself doesn't look flashy. It looks like waking up early when you're tired. It looks like going to the gym when your body says no. It looks like saying no to distractions that offer pleasure but steal your progress. It looks like sitting down to write, to study, to build, even when you'd rather do anything else. It looks like silence, sweat, repetition, no applause, no audience, just you versus you, every day. And that's why most people don't change, because they wait to feel like it. They wait for motivation. They wait for signs. But winners don't wait. Winners act. Winners know that action breeds motivation, not the other way around. Winners don't trust feelings. They trust their vision. And they train themselves to obey that vision relentlessly. So ask yourself this: who are you competing against? If your answer is anyone but yourself, you're already losing. Because comparison is a trap. It's a distraction. It shifts your focus from progress to performance, from purpose to popularity, and it robs you of the one thing you truly need: alignment with your own growth. Your job is not to be better than anyone else. Your job is to be better than who you were yesterday. That's the only standard that matters. That's the only battle worth fighting. But that battle is not easy, because the person you were yesterday is strong. They know your weaknesses. They know your fears. They know your escape routes, and they'll use all of that against you. They'll whisper, "Take a break." They'll say, "It's okay to skip just once." They'll rationalize failure. They'll decorate quitting with elegant excuses. And you'll believe them if you haven't trained your mind to rise above emotion and stay loyal to purpose. And how do you train your mind? Through repetition, through structure, through setting standards and sticking to them, no matter how you feel. You don't become powerful by accident. You become powerful by habit, by creating systems that align your actions with your values, by removing options that weaken your resolve, by surrounding yourself with environments that make growth easier and distraction harder. You don't need more motivation. You need more structure. You need to decide what matters and then build your life around it. And when your emotions rebel, as they always will, you don't listen. You execute. That's how you win against yourself. You become the kind of person who does what needs to be done, regardless of mood, comfort, or approval. And let's be clear, this is not about becoming robotic or cold. It's about becoming real with your time, real with your goals, real with your values, real with the fact that life is short, and you are not promised unlimited chances. Every day you choose the easy way is a day you reinforce weakness. Every day you let yourself slide, you teach your mind that compromise is acceptable. And before long, compromise becomes your identity. But it doesn't have to. You can choose differently. You can become the kind of person who is known not for how loud they talk, but for how hard they work. Not for how flashy they live, but for how deeply they grow. Not for how many people admire them, but for how much they admire themselves. That's real success, when you no longer need validation, because you already know who you are, because you've earned your own respect. And self-respect is earned in the dark, in the quiet, when no one's watching, when you choose to do the right thing again and again, even when it's hard, especially when it's hard, because that's what builds character, that's what builds strength, that's what turns ordinary people into legends. Not talent, not luck, not timing, just relentless, disciplined consistency. You don't have to be the most gifted. You just have to outlast your old self. You just have to keep showing up. Keep building, keep pushing, keep learning, keep falling and getting up and doing it again. Every day you do that, you separate from the person you were. You rise, you elevate, you evolve. But if you don't do that, if you let your past define you, if you let your weaknesses lead, if you let your comfort win, you'll wake up in 5, 10, 20 years in a life that looks nothing like what you wanted. And that regret will burn deeper than any pain you would have felt from discipline. That's the trade. Pain now or regret forever. So make your choice, because it's yours to make. No one can fight this battle for you. No one can force you to grow. No one can give you purpose. You have to find it, fight for it, protect it. You have to be the one who says, I'm done losing to myself. I'm done playing small. I'm done pretending I don't care. I do care, and I'm going to act like it every single day. You have to live like your future depends on it, because it does. You have to train like your dream is on the line, because it is. You have to push yourself beyond what's comfortable until discomfort becomes your new standard. That's how growth happens. That's how change becomes permanent. You don't rise by luck. You rise by choice. And every day is a new choice, a new opportunity to either level up or stay the same. You are either feeding your future or feeding your fear. You are either becoming stronger or reinforcing your limits. There's no neutral. Every choice matters. Every action counts. Every day is a vote for the person you want to become. So vote wisely. Vote with effort. Vote with sacrifice. Vote with resilience. Let your actions scream louder than your excuses. Let your consistency crush your doubt. Let your discipline destroy your distractions. That's how you win. Not once, but every day. Quietly, relentlessly, until the old you has no place in your life anymore. Until you don't even recognize the person who used to settle, quit, hide, or hesitate. Because you've changed, because you chose to fight, because you stopped competing with the world and started competing with your weakness. That's the shift, that's the power, that's the victory. Until you win against yourself and then again tomorrow. Your mind is a battlefield, every single day. A silent war is raging in your head, a war between who you are and who you want to be. A war between your highest potential and your deepest fears. And the truth is, the most dangerous enemies are not outside of you. They're the thoughts that creep in quietly, settle in your mind like squatters, and slowly begin to shape your reality without you even realizing it. Every limitation, every excuse, every delay, you don't need anyone else to stop you. Your mind has already done the job before you even began. Most of your problems don't come from the world. They come from the patterns you've rehearsed for years. What you believe, you build. What you repeat, you reinforce. So if your thoughts are filled with fear, your life will follow. If your thoughts are drenched in doubt, your potential will stay locked. That's how powerful the mind is. It will always find a way to prove itself right. Tell yourself you're not good enough, and your actions will shrink. Tell yourself you'll fail, and your courage will evaporate. Tell yourself it's too late, and you'll never even try. But if you can shift your thoughts, you can shift your entire existence. The greatest prison you'll ever live in is the one you don't even see. The one built from your own doubts, insecurities, false beliefs, and old narratives. The stories you've been telling yourself for years. I'm not smart enough. I always mess things up. I'll never be like them, have written the script for your life. And until you change the script, you'll keep repeating the same scene. You'll change locations, faces, jobs, and dreams, but the result will always feel familiar. Because the battlefield wasn't out there, it was always inside. You must become ruthless with your inner dialogue. You must examine your thoughts with the same intensity you'd examine a threat. If someone tried to sabotage your life, steal your future, and limit your growth, you'd fight them. So why don't you fight the thoughts that do the same? Why? Do you believe them so easily? Why do you let them sit in your mind without challenge? If you want to grow, you must become mentally vigilant. You must guard your thoughts the way a warrior guards the gates of a city, because what you let in stays in, and what stays in becomes your life. Your mind is not your enemy, but it can become one if you leave it untrained and undisciplined. Mind is like an unguarded house anyone can walk in. Fear can walk in, insecurity can walk in, laziness, doubt, distraction, all uninvited guests that feel like family because they've stayed too long. And just like that, you find yourself trapped in a reality that looks nothing like your dreams, not because you lacked ability, but because you gave your thoughts the final say. If you don't like your life, start with your thoughts, because behind every habit is a belief. Behind every action is a thought. You don't just act lazy, you believe there's no urgency. You don't just procrastinate, you believe there's still time. You don't just stay stuck, you believe growth is for someone else. Change your belief, and the behavior follows. But most people never get that far. They try to change the fruit without touching the root. They start new routines without fixing old thought patterns. And that's why change never sticks, because the mind still speaks the language of defeat while the body tries to act like a winner. You can't build a new life with an old mindset. You must rewire the way you think intentionally, repeatedly, uncomfortably. You must notice when a limiting belief shows up and replace it with one that empowers you. When your mind says, "You can't do this," you respond, "Maybe not yet, but I'm learning." When your mind says, "This will never work," you say, "I'll keep trying until it does." You must become your own coach, your own fire, your own defender. And yes, it's hard. It's easier to believe the old lies. It's easier to say that's just how I am. But every time you say that, you deny your power to grow. Every time you choose the familiar pain over unfamiliar progress, you strengthen the old you. Growth feels like death at first because it is. It's the death of your old self, the death of the victim mindset, the death of blame, the death of self-pity. And with every piece you bury, a new you rises, one thought at a time. But to win this war, you need tools. You need habits that train your mind to work for you, not against you. Read books that stretch your thinking. Journal the truth when your mind feeds you lies. Speak affirmations even when you don't believe them, because repetition rewires the brain. Surround yourself with people who challenge your patterns. Spend time in silence. Meditate. Pray. Reflect. Detox your mind from the noise and give it space to think again. If your mind is a battlefield, then clarity is your weapon. The clearer you are about who you want to become, the easier it is to notice which thoughts don't belong. Confusion is where old habits thrive, but clarity is where growth begins. And clarity doesn't come from thinking harder, it comes from slowing down, zooming out, and asking real questions. Who am I becoming? What story am I telling myself? Is this thought helping or hurting me? Is this belief mine, or did I inherit it from pain? You don't just need discipline, you need awareness. Without awareness, you'll spend your life fixing symptoms instead of healing the cause. You'll keep treating procrastination while ignoring fear. You'll keep chasing validation while ignoring unworthiness. You'll keep trying to prove yourself while never believing in yourself. That's why transformation doesn't begin in your body, your bank account, or your habits. It begins in your thoughts. Change your thinking, and everything else changes too. But don't be surprised when resistance shows up. The mind doesn't want to change. It wants to conserve energy. It wants to stay safe. And change feels dangerous because it is. It threatens everything your brain thinks it knows. So expect pushback. Expect discomfort. Expect your thoughts to fight for their survival. That's not a sign you're failing. It's a sign you're rewiring. Keep going. Every time you win a small mental battle when you get up instead of snoozing. When you speak truth instead of spiraling. When you face the hard thing instead of avoiding it, you prove to yourself that the old you isn't in charge anymore. And those victories compound. They add up. They change you, slowly but permanently. And eventually, you'll look back and see a mind that used to sabotage you, now working for you. A mind that once planted doubt, now feeding purpose. A mind that used to retreat, now charging forward. That shift is possible, but it starts with awareness, continues with discipline, and becomes permanent through repetition. So don't ask, how can I change my life? Ask, how can I change my thoughts? Because that's where your life begins, in the space between your ears, in the stories you accept, in the words you repeat, in the beliefs you protect. Train your mind and your life will follow. Ignore your mind and nothing will ever change for long. And here's the most important part. Your thoughts are not facts. Just because you think it doesn't mean it's true. Your mind is not a mirror, it's a filter. And sometimes that filter is dirty. It's stained by fear, trauma, failure, and voices from the past. And if you don't clean the filter, you'll keep seeing yourself through a cracked lens. You'll misjudge your worth. You'll underestimate your ability. You'll settle for less than you deserve. You don't need to fix everything today, but you do need to start paying attention. Start noticing your patterns. Start questioning your thoughts. Start replacing the lies with truth. Start fighting for your future with the power of your focus, because the most powerful thing you own is not your talent, not your resources, not your connections. It's your mind. And if you can learn to master it, you can learn to master anything. So decide today, I will no longer let my thoughts run wild. I will no longer believe every story my fear tells. I will no longer let my old programming dictate my new future. I will train my mind until it becomes my ally. I will discipline my thoughts until they reflect my vision. I will win this war not because it's easy, but because my life is worth it. Because I am worth it. And I will fight this battle every day until I win against myself. And then again tomorrow. You will never escape the process, no matter how badly you want to skip steps, avoid pain, or bypass the work. There are no shortcuts to becoming the person you're meant to be. Growth hurts. That's the price. Becoming better demands that you first break down the parts of you that aren't serving your future. You can't rise without the risk of falling. You can't transform without the tension of pressure. And every time you try to avoid that tension, you delay your evolution. The truth is that staying the same is easy, familiar, even seductive. But the price of staying the same is often far greater than the pain of change. The cost of comfort is regret. You may not feel it today. You may be able to silence it for a while. But slowly, it creeps up in the quiet moments, in the stillness, when the noise fades and you're left alone with your thoughts. That quiet voice inside you whispers that you were meant for more, that you've settled, that your life is safe, but not satisfying, that you've avoided the hard things not because they're impossible, but because they're uncomfortable. And that voice is not trying to shame you, it's trying to wake you up. We're taught to chase peace, but real peace doesn't come from running from pain. It comes from confronting it. Peace is not found in escape, it's found in endurance. It's not about hiding from struggle, it's about growing through it. Every storm you avoid becomes a weakness that grows. Every storm you face becomes a strength you gain. You don't become mentally, emotionally, or spiritually strong by chance. You become strong by standing where others would flee. You become strong by refusing to quit, even when quitting would be easier. You become strong not in the absence of pain, but in the decision to keep going through it. The path of growth is paved with discomfort. The early mornings when no one sees you grinding. The late nights when you're still building. The hard conversations you'd rather avoid. The sacrifices no one claps for. The moments when you're doubting everything but still showing up anyway. That's the process. It doesn't ask if you feel like it. It doesn't wait for your motivation. It requires you to act regardless of emotion. It demands that you rise, even when your mind screams for rest, even when your heart aches with fear. Because greatness has never been about convenience. It's about consistency under pressure. You're not going to wake up one day and suddenly be the strongest version of yourself. You don't become unstoppable by wishing it. You become unstoppable by choosing it, over and over, on the days when your confidence is gone, on the days when no one believes in you, on the days when you feel like a fraud. Those are the moments that build the kind of resilience you can't buy or fake or borrow. And you only find those moments in the process, not in avoidance, not in perfection, but in pursuit. You have to stop chasing the illusion that growth should feel good, that the path to becoming will be lined with comfort. It won't. There will be setbacks, heartbreaks, rejections, and failures, and each one will invite you to quit. Each one will whisper that maybe you're not cut out for this. But those moments are tests, not truths. They're meant to refine you, not define you. And if you can stop seeing struggle as punishment and start seeing it as preparation, your whole world changes. Every challenge is a mirror. It shows you what you really believe. Do you believe you're strong enough? Do you believe you're worthy of the life you want? Do you believe in your ability to grow, adapt, evolve? Because when life squeezes you, the truth comes out. Not the version of yourself you post about. The real version, the one who shows up when things fall apart. And if that version is weak, lost, or inconsistent, don't panic. Don't shame yourself. Just understand it's time to build. You don't grow by pretending. You grow by practicing. By doing the things that stretch you, scare you, shake you. By getting honest about your limits, and then deciding they're not going to define you. That decision right there, that's where everything shifts. The moment you stop negotiating with the old you, the moment you stop entertaining your excuses, the moment you decide that your future is not up for debate anymore, that's the moment you begin. And don't expect applause, don't wait for recognition. Most of your growth will happen in silence. Most of your progress won't be obvious at first, and that's okay, because you're not doing this for them. You're doing this for the person you're becoming. For the life you're building, for the peace you'll feel when you look in the mirror and respect who's staring back. But make no mistake, the old you won't go quietly. They'll fight for control. They'll argue for your limits. They'll pull out every memory of failure, every moment of weakness, every fear you've ever felt, and they'll use it to try and convince you to stay the same. That's why you must keep going, even when you feel unworthy, even when you feel unprepared, even when you feel alone. Especially then, because that's when the change is happening. Not on the days when it's easy, but on the days when it's not. Transformation is slow, it's messy, it's confusing, it's painful, but it's also sacred. It's the shedding of who you were to make room for who you can be. It's the quiet battles you fight in your mind every morning. It's the moments you choose discipline over distraction. It's the hours you spend working on your craft when no one's watching. That's where the new you is born, not in the spotlight, but in the shadows. The old you will try to convince you to compromise, to lower your standards, to push your goals further into the future. It will say, you've done enough today. It will say, you can start tomorrow. It will say, this is too hard. And in those moments, you have a choice to listen or to rise, to believe the voice of fear or the voice of vision, and whichever voice you feed will grow louder. Every time you choose the process over the excuse, you silence the voice that wants you to fail. Every time you show up, even when it's inconvenient, you prove to yourself that you are no longer under the control of your past. That's the real freedom, not from pain, but from passivity, from excuses, from the lie that you have to wait until everything is perfect to begin. You don't. You just have to begin. Even now, you may be thinking about all the reasons you can't. The responsibilities, the fear, the lack of time, the doubts. But those are just thoughts, and thoughts can be changed. They're not facts, they're not final, and they don't deserve to rule your life. You deserve to lead your own mind, not be a prisoner to it. And you do that by embracing the process, not running from it. The process is slow, but it's sure. You won't see massive change overnight, but you'll feel it. You'll feel it in the way you show up, in the way you speak to yourself, in the way you handle pressure. You'll feel it when you stop reacting and start responding, when you stop making excuses and start making adjustments, when you stop giving your energy to things that drain you and start investing in the things that grow you. You'll start to notice the shifts, not because the world suddenly changes, but because you do. Your mind becomes clearer, your heart becomes stronger, your focus becomes sharper. You stop being distracted by every storm, because you've learned how to build shelter within yourself. And the same process that once felt like punishment will now feel like purpose. You'll look back one day and realize the hard things were the holy things. The pain was the path. The process was the preparation. The nights you almost quit, the days you felt broken, the moments you doubted everything, those were the exact moments that built the foundation you're now standing on. You didn't just go through them, you grew through them. You became something new, something unshakable. And now, when life hits again, and it will, you won't be shaken the way you used to be, because you've built strength from the inside out. Not from motivation, but from mastery. Not from hype, but from humility. You've built a mindset that doesn't fold under pressure, because pressure is what forged it. This is what it means to win against yourself. Not to live without struggle, but to stop running from it. Not to avoid the process, but to walk through it with your head high, your heart steady, and your spirit ready. You now understand, the pain is the process is the path, and the path is where everything changes, not in the destination, but in the decision to keep going. So don't wish it were easier. Wish to become stronger. Don't pray for comfort. Pray for courage. Don't seek escape. Seek endurance. Let every setback sharpen you. Let every failure teach you. Let every doubt push you deeper into discipline. Because this is your story, and you are not finished. You are still being written. You don't need perfection. You need progress. You don't need approval. You need action. You don't need a new life. You need to commit to building the one that's waiting on the other side of your effort. You are already enough. You already have what it takes. You just need to stop delaying and start doing. This is your time. This is your fight. This is your process, and you will not stop until you win against yourself. And then again tomorrow. You don't rise by chance, you rise by choice, not once, but repeatedly. There is no single breakthrough that transforms your life forever. What really changes you is the accumulation of small, invisible choices made daily, in silence, without applause that no one else sees but you. It's not the big moment on stage that builds you. It's the hard morning when you wanted to quit, but showed up anyway. It's the decision to stay focused when your mind begged for distraction. It's choosing to speak truth when lying to yourself would have been easier. Those moments are the bricks that build your character. The more consistently you lay them, the stronger you become. This is not motivation. It's the foundation of who you are becoming. Every single day, you are voting for the version of yourself you want to be. And every action is a ballot. Do you vote for discipline or delay? Do you vote for courage or fear? Do you vote for the old you or the new you? The life you want isn't found in dramatic transformations, it's hidden in the thousands of micro decisions that shape your mindset, your energy, your habits, and your self-respect. If you're waiting for a big moment to finally turn into who you wanted to be, you're going to wait forever. The truth is, becoming is built on repetition. Mastery comes from returning again and again to the difficult thing, the boring thing, the thing that stretches you, and doing it with full effort, even when no one is clapping for you. That's what most people miss. They want success to feel exciting all the time. They want constant validation. But real growth feels like silence. It feels like isolation. It feels like walking a long road by yourself and still choosing to keep walking. Not because it's glamorous, not because anyone is watching, but because you know deep in your soul that you can no longer afford to betray your potential. You can't keep lying to yourself about starting tomorrow. You can't keep settling for a watered-down version of your life. The new you demands full commitment, and full commitment means showing up whether you feel like it or not. That's the key. Your feelings don't determine your direction, your decisions do. And if you only act when it's easy or exciting, you'll never become powerful. Power comes from consistency. It comes from doing what's right, especially when it's inconvenient. If you want to become someone you're proud of, you have to start acting like that person now, not next week, not next year, not when things settle down. There's no later, there's only now. The life you want begins the moment you decide to stop negotiating with excuses. And those excuses, they're clever, they wear disguises. They don't always sound like weakness. Sometimes they sound like logic. Like I've done enough for today. Like I'll get serious after this one last thing. Like everyone else takes breaks too. But excuses don't care about your growth. They only care about your comfort. And every time you listen to them, they get louder, stronger, more convincing. That's why you have to meet them with truth, with standards, with a decision that says, I'm no longer listening to the voice that wants me to stay small. You must become the kind of person who honors their word, especially to themselves. Because how can you expect to feel confident when you constantly abandon your own standards? Confidence doesn't come from compliments, it comes from consistency. It comes from following through on the promises you make in private, from building proof every single day that you are who you say you are. The more you follow through, the more you trust yourself. And self-trust is the most powerful kind of strength, because when you trust yourself, nothing can stop you. Not failure, not fear, not even the opinion of others. And here's what's real. You don't need more inspiration. You need more integrity. You need to stop lying to yourself about what's possible. You need to stop underestimating the value of showing up daily. The most successful people in the world aren't superhuman, they're just incredibly consistent. They don't rely on emotion, they rely on commitment. They treat their goals like obligations, not options. That's what separates them from the rest. And you have that power too. You've just been distracted, or afraid, or unsure, but you've always had the ability to choose a higher standard. It's been inside you all along. Choosing that standard doesn't mean you'll be perfect. It means you'll be intentional. It means you'll make mistakes and still return. It means you'll miss a step but never miss the mission. It means you'll treat your life like something sacred, not something random. Too many people live randomly. They wake up without clarity, drift through their days, and wonder why nothing changes. Don't be one of them. Take ownership every single morning. Ask yourself, who do I need to be today? What would the strongest version of me do right now? And then do it. Your future doesn't care about your excuses. It only responds to your effort, and your effort is never wasted. Even when it doesn't show immediate results, it's building something inside you. Every workout you don't skip, every negative thought you don't feed, every difficult task you complete when you'd rather quit, it's all adding up. The results may be delayed, but the change is happening now. You are becoming right now. And that becoming, it's not always visible. Sometimes it feels like nothing is working, like you're grinding in the dark, like all your effort is going unnoticed. But don't let the silence fool you. Just because you don't see the fruit yet doesn't mean the seed isn't growing. Keep watering it. Keep showing up. Keep pushing. Because eventually, what was invisible will become undeniable. And when it does, it won't feel like luck. It'll feel like justice. Like you finally received what you worked for, what you bled for, what you refused to quit for. You are not here to live an average life. You are not here to float through your days, chasing moments of pleasure and avoiding all pain. You are here to build something meaningful with your mind, your heart, your words, your choices. You are here to lead yourself so powerfully that others feel permission to rise just by being near you. But that kind of leadership starts internally. It starts with choosing to master yourself before you try to master anything else. That's the real win, not over others, but over who you used to be. And this is why you must fall in love with discipline, not as punishment, but as power. Discipline is not the opposite of freedom, it is the path to it. The more disciplined you are, the more control you have over your life, over your emotions, over your direction, over your destiny. Without discipline, you become a slave to mood, to convenience, to other people's opinions. With discipline, you move with clarity, with direction, with purpose. You don't wait to feel ready. You move because you've already decided where you're going. And yes, it will be hard. It will feel lonely. It will require sacrifices most people aren't willing to make. But if you're still reading this, then you're not most people. You're someone who knows they were built for more. Someone who feels a fire deep in their chest that refuses to die, no matter how hard life hits. Someone who's tired of the cycles, tired of the delay, tired of being stuck in the same chapter. You're someone who is ready to rise, ready to rewrite your story, ready to become the version of yourself that you've seen in your quietest dreams. The one who doesn't flinch in the face of adversity, the one who doesn't shrink around powerful people, the one who walks with a different kind of confidence, not arrogance, alignment, because they've done the work, they've paid the price, they've earned their peace. That person is not far away. That person is you on the other side of your decision. and the only thing standing between where you are and where you want to be is what you tolerate. Stop tolerating excuses. Stop tolerating weak habits. Stop tolerating average effort. Start acting like your future is worth fighting for. Start treating your goals like lifelines. Start respecting yourself enough to demand better from your time, your energy, your environment, your choices. It's not about being perfect. It's about being persistent. It's about showing up messy, tired, doubtful, but showing up anyway. That's what changes you. That's what separates those who dream from those who do. And you're done dreaming. You're done talking. You're ready to do, ready to build, ready to become. So don't wait. Don't scroll past this and fall back into distraction. Let this moment be the one you remember, the one you look back on and say, that's when everything shifted. Not because of a motivational speech, but because of a choice, a real choice, to change, to grow, to rise, to win, not against the world, but against the one person who's held you back the most, yourself. Because the old you has had enough time. Now it's your turn to become unstoppable, to become undeniable, to become the person you were always meant to be. And you don't stop until you win against yourself, and then again tomorrow. You don't become who you're meant to be by accident. You don't wake up one day stronger, wiser, more focused, more disciplined, and more fulfilled just because time passed. Time doesn't change you, effort does, intention does, relentless action does. What most people miss is that becoming your best self isn't about what you gain, it's about what you let go of. The habits, the mindsets, the fears, the versions of yourself that have overstayed their welcome. You've been dragging around pieces of your past, carrying thoughts that don't belong to your future, and living as someone you promised you would grow out of. And deep down, you know it. You know you've outgrown who you've been. That version of you got you here, but it cannot take you further. Growth demands a death. The death of your old identity, the death of your excuses, the death of your comfort zone. And death, in any form, is painful. That's why so many people resist growth, because it means saying goodbye to what's familiar, even if that familiarity is hurting you. But if you want to rise, you have to be willing to let go, to release the need to be liked, to stop clinging to the safety of who you were, to stop holding on to habits that numb your pain, but also block your progress. You will never know your true power until you walk away from everything that weakens you. Until you stop settling for almost disciplined, almost consistent, almost committed, almost growing, almost healing. That word almost is the silent killer of potential. It gives you just enough progress to feel like you're trying, but not enough to truly transform. And transformation does not live in almost, it lives in full effort, in complete honesty, in a radical decision to no longer be who you've been. That decision is the hardest part, because it means choosing discomfort on purpose. It means letting go of the identity you've used as a shield, the identity that says, I'm just not that confident. I've always struggled with discipline. I'm not like other people. No, that's not identity. That's injury. That's conditioning. That's a story you inherited from failure, rejection, or fear. And stories can be rewritten, but only if you stop defending them. Stop protecting the version of you that's holding your future hostage. The version of you that is stuck isn't bad. They're just outdated. They were built to survive an old season of life, and they did their job. But now, you're in a new season and that version no longer fits. It's too small, it's too safe, it's too reactive. And every time you try to drag it into your future, it resists, it self-sabotages, it creates chaos and confusion, because it knows it doesn't belong in the life you're trying to build. The hard truth is this: you can't become new while staying loyal to what's old. You can't step into your power while still feeding your insecurity. You can't grow into your next chapter while rereading the last one. If you want to evolve, you must create emotional distance from the things that keep you circling the same life. You must be willing to burn bridges not with people, but with patterns, with cycles, with your lower self. And that process will hurt, because some of those patterns feel like home, even the toxic ones. You've lived in them for so long, you've learned to call them comfort. But they're not comfort. They're cages, disguised as protection. And the door has been open this whole time, but you have to choose to walk out. No one can force you. No one can save you. This is your fight, Letting go is not about losing. It's about clearing space. When you release what no longer serves you create room for what will, for better thoughts, better habits, better opportunities. But nothing new can enter your life while your hands are full of what's broken. You have to unclench your grip. You have to trust that life will meet you on the other side of your leap. And that trust, that's where faith begins. Faith in yourself, faith in your potential, faith in the idea that maybe you're more capable than you've been pretending. Maybe you've known all along what you need to do, but fear kept you from acting. Maybe the reason you feel stuck isn't because life is against you, but because you've been playing small on purpose. Because small feels safe. Because small doesn't get judged, but it also doesn't get fulfilled. And you are not here to live a small life. You are here to stretch, to expand, to take up space, to use your gifts fully, to live in alignment with your values, not your fears. And you cannot do that while clinging to old ways of thinking. Growth starts in the mind, in the thoughts you refuse to entertain, in the beliefs you challenge, in the identity you stop protecting. You are not your past. You are not your pain. You are not your patterns. You are the awareness that gets to decide what stays and what goes. You are the conscious choice to rise higher, to let go of victimhood, to forgive yourself, to move forward even if it hurts, even if you're scared, even if it means being misunderstood by everyone around you. Because not everyone will understand your growth, and that's okay. It's not their job to understand. It's your job to become. You don't owe explanations for why you no longer participate in your old life. You don't need permission to grow. You don't need validation to change. You only need the courage to walk away from what you've outgrown. And courage is built through action, through choosing differently every day, through making the uncomfortable choice, the one that serves your future, not your ego, the one that delays gratification for long-term fulfillment, the one that doesn't feel good right away, but pays off in strength, clarity, and alignment. This is not easy work. It's not glamorous. It's not the kind of thing you can post online for applause. It's deep, internal, quiet. It's crying in private because you're releasing parts of yourself that once felt like identity. It's feeling lost because the old map no longer works. It's walking into the unknown, heart pounding, hands shaking but going anyway. That's the work that changes you. The work no one sees. The work that no one thanks you for. The work that most people avoid because it's too hard. But you've come too far to stop now. You've lived too long in a life that doesn't match your soul. You've wasted enough time apologizing for your power. You've dimmed your light for too many people who were afraid of their own. Now it's your turn to rise, to release, to let go of what no longer aligns, to stop fighting for limitations that never belonged to you, to stop watering dead things, to stop making excuses for behavior that keeps you stuck. You know what needs to go. The voice in your head already told you. The real question is, will you listen? Will you honor the version of you that's trying to be born? Will you protect your future the way you've protected your fear? Will you stop living in the identity of who you were and start stepping into who you were designed to be? Because the life you want isn't waiting for more time. It's waiting for less hesitation, less fear, less excuses, and more release, more surrender, more action, more trust. This is not the end of your story. This is the rebirth. The moment you choose to stop carrying what's been killing your momentum. The moment you say goodbye not to people, but to patterns, not to comfort, but to confusion, not to who you are, but to who you are no longer willing to be. Because you're not here to stay the same. You're here to evolve, and you don't stop evolving until you win against yourself, and then again tomorrow. There comes a time when excuses no longer work, a moment when the stories you've been telling yourself, the reasons you've been giving, the delays you've been justifying, they all start to taste bitter. You feel it in your chest, that quiet discomfort, that uneasy awareness that you've been holding yourself back, that it's not life, or fate, or luck that's blocking your path, it's you. And suddenly, you can no longer pretend. You can't pretend that you don't know better. You can't pretend that you're trying your best when deep down, you know you've been giving just enough to get by, but not enough to truly break through. That's the moment where everything begins to shift, not because the world changes, but because you do. Growth starts when your lies stop working on you. when your own excuses begin to sound weak in your ears, when you can't even convince yourself anymore. That's the breaking point, not in a negative way, but in a necessary way. You must break before you build. You must see clearly before you step boldly. Most people never reach that moment because they surround themselves with noise, distractions, entertainment, opinions, validation-seeking behavior that helps them drown out their own conscience. But if you get quiet enough, if you turn down the volume of the world, you'll hear something sacred. Truth. Truth always whispers before it screams. At first, it's gentle, a gut feeling, a sense that you're made for more, a pull toward, a path that feels unfamiliar but right. Ignore it long enough, and the whisper becomes a shout. Life will shake you, not to punish you, but to wake you, to pull you out of comfort, to rip the fake mask off your face and remind you of who you really are, not the version the world molded, not the one you've been performing, but the one you were before fear dressed you up in doubt. That's the person you must return to. That's the battle, not against the world, but against everything false within you. The layers of insecurity, the wounds from the past, the need to please everyone but yourself. Winning against yourself doesn't mean you hate who you are, it means you love yourself enough to not stay in survival mode. You respect yourself enough to push past mediocrity. You care enough to build something better, even when it's hard, even when it's slow, even when no one sees you trying. You must reach the point where being average is painful, where being inconsistent makes you sick to your stomach, where wasting potential feels like a betrayal of your own soul. That's when you stop quitting on yourself, not because you have something to prove, but because you finally understand your worth. You finally understand that no one is coming to save you, that no one can climb inside your body and do the work for you, that no amount of complaining, hoping, or dreaming will create change, only action will. And action doesn't need motivation, it needs commitment, discipline, fire. You have to show up even when it feels pointless, even when you're tired, even when you feel like nothing is working. Because guess what? Most change is invisible in the beginning. Most progress is silent. Most breakthroughs come disguised as failure. And if you don't have the patience to stay consistent through the uncertainty, you'll never reach the certainty you crave. Everyone wants the results. Few are willing to embrace the process. Everyone wants to be proud of who they are. Few are willing to do the uncomfortable work to become that person. But discomfort is the doorway. It's not the enemy. It's the sign you're leaving your old life behind. And when you begin to associate discomfort with transformation, everything changes. You stop running from it. You begin to seek it out because you understand it's where you level up. It's where your weak habits die. It's where your strong identity is forged. This isn't about forcing yourself to suffer. It's about training yourself to grow. Growth is always uncomfortable because it requires you to step into the unknown. It requires you to let go of habits that numb you, relationships that drain you, patterns that keep you small. And yes, it hurts, but it also heals. It breaks you open so you can rebuild. It clears space so something greater can emerge. The new you can't be built on the foundation of the old you. You have to tear down what's not real so you can create something that lasts. And that's where most people get stuck. They want growth, but they're afraid of loss. They want success, but they're addicted to safety. They want to evolve, but they're not willing to be uncomfortable long enough for the change to take root. They quit too early. They stop showing up when it stops feeling good. They walk away from themselves every time the process gets messy. But you're not here for convenience. You're here for greatness. And greatness requires endurance. So stop measuring your progress by how good it feels. Start measuring it by how consistently you show up when it doesn't. Stop waiting for the fire. Be the fire. Stop waiting for signs. Be the sign. The sign that a person can change their whole life when they stop making excuses and start making choices, when they stop negotiating with fear and start acting on faith, when they stop trying to be liked and start trying to be real. Authenticity is power. When you strip away everything fake, every performance, every pretense, every mask, you find the kind of energy that can move mountains. Not because it's loud, but because it's true, and people can feel truth. You can feel truth. It's the difference between being alive and merely existing. And the more you live in truth, the less tolerance you'll have for anything less. But truth has a price. It costs comfort. It costs your victim story. It costs every excuse you've used to avoid responsibility. And the moment you pay that price, you're free. Free from the lies that kept you small. Free from the cycles that made you question your worth. Free from the versions of you that were born out of survival, not intention. Freedom doesn't come from ease. It comes from ownership. From looking your flaws in the face and refusing to be defined by them. From taking your trauma and choosing to turn it into power. From holding your brokenness with grace, but not letting it become your identity. From saying, yes, I've been hurt, I've failed, I've doubted, but that's not where my story ends. You are not your worst day. You are not your lowest thought. You are not your past mistake. You are the person who chose to rise anyway. The one who kept going when the world expected you to give up. The one who decided that peace wasn't found in pretending to be okay, but in doing the work to actually be okay. That's strength. That's courage. That's what it looks like to win against yourself. And no, it won't be perfect. You'll slip. You'll fall. You'll have days where you question everything. That's normal. That's part of being human. But don't let a bad day convince you you've got a bad life. Don't let one setback erase all your progress. The goal isn't perfection, it's alignment. It's about showing up real, honest, and committed, even when it's messy. Especially when it's messy. Every version of yourself that you're proud of will be built through persistence, through hours of effort that no one sees, through uncomfortable decisions that most people aren't willing to make, through the kind of self-respect that says, I refuse to settle here. I may not be where I want to be, but I'm not going to betray my future by staying here either. That's the mindset. The one that refuses to lose to weakness. The one that chooses discipline over distraction. The one that does the right thing even when it's the hardest thing. The one that says, I will rise no matter how many times I fall. Because the truth is, you are always becoming. Every choice is shaping you. Every action is building your next moment. You are the author. You are the architect. And the more you take ownership of that, the less room there is for victimhood. The less time you waste waiting for things to change. The more energy you have to make them change. You're not too far behind. You're not too late. You're not too broken. You're just one decision away from getting back in alignment. One decision away from momentum. One decision away from turning the page and starting the chapter you were born to write. So don't give up now. Don't shrink. Don't hide. You've come too far to stop here. This is the moment, not tomorrow. Not when you feel better. Now, make the choice. Let it be messy. Let it be imperfect, but make it. Because every time you choose the higher road, the harder path, the uncomfortable truth, you become more powerful than you were yesterday. And that power, it's not about control. It's about clarity. It's about peace. It's about knowing that no matter what life throws at you, you will not fold. You will not fade. You will not run. Because you've already faced the hardest enemy you'll ever meet, the version of you that doubted, delayed, and denied your greatness, and you overcame. You're not here to play small. You're here to rise, to stand firm, to lead yourself, to win fully, finally, and completely against yourself, and then again tomorrow. Of all the battles you will ever fight in this life, none will be more important than the one you fight within. Because no matter what you accomplish, no matter what you earn, no matter who believes in you or who doesn't, the real question is this: do you believe in yourself? When it counts, can you look in the mirror and say, I've done everything I could with what I was given? Can you face your own reflection with honesty, not pride, and admit that you showed up, even when quitting would have been easier? The truth is, most people don't lose to the world. They lose to their own doubts. They lose to the fear they nurture. They lose to the lies they've repeated so often, they've begun to sound like truth. They talk themselves out of opportunities, out of growth, out of peace. They sabotage progress because deep down, they don't believe they deserve the life they secretly want. So they shrink, they hide, they fake contentment, and worst of all, they justify it. But not you, not anymore. You've been to the edge. You've looked at the life you were living and knew something had to change. You've tasted mediocrity and realized it leaves you starving. You've lived just enough to get by, but never enough to feel fully alive. And the greatest tragedy is not that life is hard. The greatest tragedy is when you settle for a life you know is beneath you. A life that demands nothing of your soul. A life where you show up halfway, half committed, half believing, half awake. You weren't made for halfway. You were made to stretch, to build, to rise. And to rise, you must first fall out of love with your limitations. You must unlearn the comfort of playing small. You must challenge the voice in your head that tells you to stay safe, because that voice has been lying to you. Safety is not silence. Safety is not hiding your light. Safety is not keeping your potential locked in a room where no one can touch it. That's not safety. That's a slow death. The longer you stay there, the more numb you become. And numbness is not peace, it's disconnection from your own power. So you must choose. Choose to fight, not with fists, but with fire. Not with rage, but with resolve. Not with noise, but with unshakable clarity. Because you're not fighting the world. You're fighting the patterns within you that have kept you trapped. The thoughts that say, I'll never change. The habits that say, I'll start tomorrow. The fear that says, what if I fail? But what if you win? What if you get everything you prayed for? What if the only thing separating you from the life you want is your willingness to stay in the fire long enough to earn it? Fire doesn't just burn, it refines. It strips away what doesn't belong. It melts away false identities. And if you stay in it, it will reveal something unbreakable within you. Something that can't be stolen by doubt. Something that doesn't bend to failure. Something that still stands after the storm. That's what you're after. Not surface-level success, but a soul that is grounded, a spirit that is solid, a mindset that is untouchable. And to get there, you have to keep going, especially when it hurts, especially when you're exhausted, especially when the finish line feels invisible. Because those are the moments that build your future. Not the easy days, not the celebrations, but the days when your body aches, your mind screams, and you still say, I'm not done. This is what separates you from the version of you that used to quit. This is what builds the muscle of discipline, of identity, of ownership. Because ownership means you no longer point fingers. You no longer blame the world, your past, your circumstances. You look at yourself and say, this is my life, and I will shape it with my decisions. And let's be clear, it's not always about hustle. It's not about running yourself into the ground. It's about alignment, about choosing the things that feed your future, about releasing what drains you, about creating space for the life you say you want. Because you can't want peace and still entertain chaos. You can't want focus and still scroll for hours. You can't want success and still spend your days procrastinating, doubting, and avoiding the work. Everything you want requires something of you. And what it requires most is consistency. Not perfection, not inspiration, just the courage to keep showing up, day after day, thought after thought, choice after choice, even when no one sees, even when no one claps, even when you wonder if it's working, because that's where the transformation lives, not in what's visible, but in what's consistent. And yes, people will misunderstand you. They'll think you're obsessed. They'll call you distant, intense, even cold. But what they call obsession, you call alignment. What they call distance, you call clarity. What they call intensity, you call purpose. You're not here to be liked, you're here to be true to the vision, to the calling, to the version of you that refuses to live another year out of sync with your soul. You will outgrow many things on this journey. People, environments, habits, stories, and you must let them go. Because if you don't, they will pull you back. They will convince you to compromise. They will say, just relax, don't take it so seriously. But how can you not take it seriously? This is your life. You only get one. How can you not fight for your peace, your purpose, your power? You're not chasing validation. You're chasing integrity. The kind of integrity that lets you sleep at night because you know you showed up. The kind that lets you look your future in the eyes and say, I gave everything. Not because someone forced you, but because you demanded it of yourself. This is the final battle. Not against people, not against obstacles, but against the inner resistance that wants to pull you back into the old life, the old habits, the old identity. You must declare war on the part of you that settles, that avoids, that delays, that lies, because that part of you has robbed you long enough. Now it's your turn to win. Win back your time. Win back your standards. Win back your voice. Win back your life. It starts with a decision. Right here, right now, not tomorrow, not next week. Now, to never again betray your potential for temporary comfort. To never again say, I'll start someday. This is someday. This is the line in the sand. The old you stays behind. The new you walks forward. Scared, maybe, unsure, absolutely. But ready to do the work. Ready to pay the price. Ready to earn what's always been possible but never pursued fully. No one else will do this for you. No one else can. This is your path, your pain, your power, and you must own it. Not perfectly, but fully, with everything in you. Because if you don't, you'll wake up in 10 years asking why you still feel stuck, why your soul still aches, why your potential still haunts you. Don't let that happen. Let this be the chapter that changes everything. The moment where you stopped running, stopped pretending, stopped hiding, and finally said, I will not stop until I win against myself. And then again tomorrow, and the next day, and every day until my last. Because that's the real victory. Not fame, not money, not applause, but peace. Peace in knowing you became the person you were born to be, no matter what it cost.